Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Sandor. I head up marketing at LatentAI, and our mission here with our software tools is to take the hard work out of bringing AI to the edge. So welcome to our web series. And today I'd like to welcome Charlie Kindel. Hi, Charlie.
Hello. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Charlie is like a really super busy guy, so we very much appreciate your time today. Charlie is the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Snap One. I guess it's now, formerly it was Snap AV. Is that right, Charlie?
Yeah, I previously held that role. I left Snap One last November, and right now I'm focused on advising and consulting companies of all sizes.
Perfect. Yes. So Charlie's also the president and founder of Kindel LLC. And as he mentioned, he does a lot of executive coaching, consulting services with startups and a multitude of companies. He holds multiple board and advisory roles. And we're also very proud to say that he's also a Latent AI advisor. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So Charlie, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, I've had a really fun 30 plus year career in the technology industry. I spent 21 years at Microsoft, built a bunch of products that a lot of consumers and developers love. Then I did some startups myself for a couple of years. And then I spent 5.5 years at Amazon, where I built Amazon Echo and Alexa. In particular, I was responsible for all the smart home capabilities that are in Echo and Alexa. And then I spent a couple of years at a smart home technology company called Control4, also known as Snap One. And I've just been in and around connected systems, consumer products, and developer products my entire career.
Awesome. Marketing to developers is really a challenge, but it's also like one of the most gratifying things that I think I've been involved with in my career. And I see in your background there you have some sort of space rocket ship in the background. Yeah.
I've decided that my next professional chapter is going to be primarily focused on helping humanity be multiplanetary, to get off the planet. And I've always been passionate around space, wanted to be an astronaut like a lot of kids, but I never did anything really actively to pursue that until recently. And I've decided now is the time. And so I'm spending a lot of time learning about the space industry, learning about companies that are investing in various space activities, and then doing a lot of advising and helping a lot of those companies.
Awesome. So yesterday was probably a really interesting day for you in terms of people going into space.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great to see. Yesterday was Jeff Bezos and the New Shepard got off the planet and came back down safe, which is awesome.
Right. It was very, very exciting, and to also see that there will be more people going into space soon. It sounds like so.
It's a very exciting time.
Very exciting. So maybe you'll be one of those passengers. Great. Well, let's talk about Latent AI a little bit. So I'd love to hear how you got involved with us in terms of becoming an advisor, and a little bit about what your personal or even professional interest is in the edge AI and ML industry.
Sure. I got to know Jags, the CEO, personally through some events that I attended. We met each other at some startup-related, IoT-related networking events and got to know each other and became friends. And I began to learn a lot about what he was doing and his passions. And how he had founded Latent AI, and he got to know me. And one day he just asked me if I'd help, and
Awesome.
and I didn't hesitate, and I agreed to come on board and help however I can. I've been working on connected systems for 30 plus years. A big part of my energy while I was at Microsoft was enabling the connected home. And this was back before PCs had networking in them. One of my jobs at Microsoft was to put home networking into Windows. And so for Windows XP and that generation, I helped put the TCP IP stack in Windows. I helped put a firewall in. And as I did that, I recognized that we were going to live in a world where everything was going to be connected, and that there's going to be intelligence in devices throughout these connected networks. And whether they're small networks like a home network or a large enterprise network or the internet at large. And so I've always been really passionate about that. And we've seen a lot of transitions and shifts in how people perceive it. And I think it's very simple. I think that at the end of the day, we have devices that are that are connected, and those devices have some amount of intelligence in them. And in some cases, those devices can be expensive and big and power usage heavy. And in a lot of cases, they need to be small, inexpensive, and use very little power. And obviously, there's going to be far more of the latter than there are of the former. And it's very exciting. This is really what LatentAI is enabling, is devices that are small, inexpensive, they don't consume a lot of power, and how can they connect reliably and then do really intelligent things inexpensively.
Right. I love the word that you use, enable, because we use that here a lot in our discussions, not only internally, but externally with our potential clients. And that's really how we see it. It's really enabling, these small devices with a very powerful software suite, and being able to bring all of these really complicated, big AI models to these very small devices with, less latency, less memory, less cost, and also speed to market, which I think is really a competitive advantage for a lot of companies who are moving in this direction. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that perspective. And speaking of perspective, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, I know that you advise a lot of startups and companies and have had like a really broad scope of experience. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your philosophy and sort of, more about your specialization when it comes to being on the advisory board of these startups.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by all aspects of businesses of every size, and I like getting involved in all aspects of it. But the places where I tend to add the most value, and my experiences seem to be valuable to companies like LatentAI, is helping them build the way their company is run. What are the company's principles, and what is the culture, and how can the company be the type of company that people love working at, and are they thrive in their personal careers, and they execute and deliver results for customers. And so it's a little bit of a combination of the how and how companies are run, but also deliverable against really being customer focused. Right.
It's I think it's fascinating. I've worked with many startups in my career as well, and I love working with startups. It's crazy, but it's also like extremely inspiring to me to see these young teams come together, having to create a company culture and a place, as you mentioned, where people want to work, but then also being able to deliver and execute on the product or service and meeting all those milestones and, all of the challenges that come in front of them along the way, which can be new to some entrepreneurs and maybe not so new, but having advisors like you who can help them avoid the pitfalls is really, really great. So speaking of that, I mean, when you met Jags at the event, I'm curious to understand, like, what do you personally look for in an entrepreneur either, from the leadership team or the entire team? What is it you look for when you want or agree to join an advisory board?
Well, the first thing that I'll say on that is uh, the history of startups and early stage companies is if you look back on it, very few of them are successful. It's 1 in 10.
Yep.
And if you do an analysis of all the ones that are successful, what differentiates them from the ones that weren't, more often than not, the thing that distinguishes them is the people. It's not the technology, it's not the product, it's not the industry they're in, it's the people. And so first and foremost, I look for leaders who are passionate, that have demonstrated the fortitude and the conviction to persevere. I think those are extremely important. Someone who is clearly good at articulating a vision in a simple way, and then getting other people to follow that vision. There's a lot of startups out there that have single founders that they struggle for years and years because that leader has not been able to bring anyone else along with them. And so looking for that ability to attract great talent and other people who are as committed to the mission as the leader is something I definitely look for in leaders.
Yes, awesome. And I guess now that you know our Latent AI management team a little bit more, what about this group of people do you think makes them sort of uniquely capable of executing the mission that we have in front of us, which is, really, it's an awesome mission. It's also, I think, very challenging in a very competitive space. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective on our management team and what makes them suited for this.
Yeah, well, the domain expertise is clearly there. Whether it's JAGS or SEC on the product side, they understand how to build ML systems at the edge, highly efficient, very well. It's at their core, and so there's no ambiguity there in my mind around the technical capability and expertise. And then the next thing that I've noticed is that there's a real eagerness to learn and adapt as the company grows, and a willingness to step back and say, well, this is how we did it before, but this doesn't necessarily seem like what we need to be doing going forward as we grow and we get more customers. And so what should we do? And so that learning, adapting capability is definitely key. But there's also just a ton of eagerness and excitement around doing something new and different, which is great.
Right, and I agree with you 1,000%. I think the enthusiasm and the domain knowledge is really, really outstanding. But it's also, I think, the combination of the people, and as you mentioned before, being able to attract people, but the right people that come together in a way and can also tie into the mission, the leadership and where they're taking the company, how that feels. We have a lot of young people, I'll say early in their careers who are have joined the company, will be joining the company. And what I've observed is that the care and the nurturing of, these really brilliant minds, young people who are just sort of starting out is really, really great. I wish I had some of that early on in my career. It was a lot different. So, I think you're absolutely right there. I've noticed the same thing, and it's really quite inspiring. So we are, in a very exciting point in our evolution. We just completed our Series A financing round. And again, since you've advised so many startups in the past, I think at this stage it becomes different, where things get more serious. There's a lot more roadmap, execution, milestones to hit. we're onboarding customers. There are, very clear objectives. And I think the work gets more complicated, harder. There's a lot more seriousness involved. And so while trying to, keep the fun, enthusiastic culture, I'd love to ask you what you've seen in your experience, some of the common pitfalls at this stage for startup teams.
Well, I think there's a real tension when you're at a stage where latent AI is, where they've now been funded substantially to get to the next level of scale. And there's a real tension between over investing in processes and systems to deal with the scale on one side, and then on the other side, just going all out and not paying attention to any of the aspects of scale, and not building a solid foundation.
Right.
And you have to find that balance. And so one of the biggest pitfalls, going to your question, is that startups either index too far one way or the other. They don't find that balance. They either suddenly turn into a bureaucratic, slow-moving, over-engineered organization too quickly, or they move too fast. They hire without a high enough hiring bar, for example, too quickly. They're not conscious of how they should be organizing and aligning channels of communication for effective communication. They're not thoughtful and forward thinking about those things. And as a result, the foundation is never strong enough, and they fail to actually deliver on results in the long run, quality results in the long run. So I think it's finding that balance between those two.
Right. Very insightful. And I guess, as you look at latent AI and knowing us as well as you do, what do you see as our opportunities and also, some of the challenges that might come our way? In my experience with startups, there are usually challenges, many unexpected challenges, and being able to mobilize around that and solve those problems in an efficient and effective way that doesn't disrupt the team or the morale or whatever the situation is. But I think I've seen teams go sideways really fast too, where an unexpected challenge comes up, or it could be customer related, it could be product related. Maybe they're behind schedule, or the product isn't performing as they expected, so you've got unhappy customers. On the other hand, we're in a space where I think it's extremely vibrant and there's so much going on. We're clearly sort of on that, leading edge of the technology side with Leap. And so, yeah, I just love to hear your perspective on the opportunities and perhaps, the challenges that we might face.
Yeah. The core idea behind latent AI is applicable to dozens, if not hundreds, of industries. It is this idea that devices, everything we encounter in our lives are going to be connected, is happening everywhere, whether it is in industrial applications, government applications, consumer in the home, automotive. Your furniture is going to be connected. Your table is going to know when there's a glass sitting on it at some point in time, and it's going to report it back. Right? It sounds ridiculous, but it's happening. And the same thing is true in automotive. Think about how connected every aspect of an automobile is, and how connected automobiles are to each other and the rest of the ecosystem. Space is another example where everything is connected. And so there is a real opportunity for this company to be able to have a big impact across many, many industries And that's one of the things that's so exciting about it. And I think it's part of the reason that the investors are investing in it. That said, there's a real challenge of how do you find the right focus? Because you certainly can't go address all of those opportunities simultaneously. You have to prioritize and pick the ones that you go knock down first, and celebrate those early victories and use those to then scale to the next ones. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges is how to navigate. It's as much of what not to focus on as it is what.
Right. Yes. Well said. Well said. So, in terms of working with Latent AI, I'd like to hear maybe what, if Jags has tapped you for some recent advice, what was that about? If you can share it, and then how did you coach him, or Zach and Jags?
Yeah, actually, a really great one was recently, as the company is growing and needs to hire a lot of people. Jax came to me and asked me about the tools in my toolbox and systems I have for how to hire people, how to run interviews and how to do recruiting. And that turned into, actually, we did a session with the team where I got on a Zoom call with all of the folks of the company who are going to be involved in the hiring process. And we basically did a couple hours of training of best practices and things to look out for, pitfalls to avoid, and how to do this. Because it turns out a lot of people don't have experience doing it. Right. And some do, and some, right. And so it's inconsistent. And so that was one example.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we actually had a discussion today about the hiring process, and it sounds like they have some good systems in place now to help that along. So, as candidates come in, I guess the good news is that they're getting a lot of response on the posted positions. So if you're in the engineering space, you're a developer looking for a job, come check out Latent AI. We've got some really cool things going on. But yeah, it has been, I think, a bit of a challenge. And I think the unexpected thing there is that the time that it takes to go through the hiring process, to recruit, to get people into the candidate funnel, to go through all the interviews, evaluate them, have the panel interviews, all of that. So yeah, they're working through it, but it sounds like it's coming along. So thank you so much for that great advice and the training session that you had. I saw it on our calendar. I wasn't able to join. I was going to hop in, but I wasn't able to do it. So anyway, thanks so much for that. So, Charlie, thank you so much for all of this. Your insights have been extremely valuable, and I hope that this has been fun for you too. I guess the last question that I'd like to ask you is if you have any parting words of advice for us, or just any other comment that you'd like to add before we end our session here.
I'm pretty excited about Latent AI. I think that there is starting with Jags and his passion and his vision, his perseverance, his ability to sell without overselling, and get people to buy into the vision in a simple way, is pretty incredible. And I deal with a lot of early stage companies, and I'm very excited about what Latent AI is up to.
Awesome. I am too. Why I'm here.
Awesome.
But we so appreciate your advice, your wisdom, your expertise, and your participation in our journey. And thank you so much. And so with that, I guess we'll wrap this up, and hopefully we'll get to chat again. Charlie, we'll do another one of these at some point.
Absolutely. Hey, I was going to make a quick call out. I'm running an experiment these days where I'm running open office hours. And I make my time available to anybody who wants to talk to me. Maybe they're looking for advice. Maybe they just want to share an idea. They want to get something off their chest. And it's been really fun. And so I just want people to know that I'm available. And all you got to do is go to my website, kindle.com, and go to /services. And I've got a link there, and you can sign up, and maybe we'll meet each other.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I love that. I think that's, you know, especially now, I think people are just sort of re-entering the world, you know, in a way, although I guess we'll see where the whole COVID thing goes, but we're all learning to adjust to sort of this new world and how to interact with people. And I think that's really great. So yes, I may sign up for that actually, Charlie. So you might see me there.
Awesome.
Did you want to say anything about Stoke in the space area? I have a special interest in space myself, just from a casual sort of observation. But feel free to say something about Stoke if you'd like to.
Yeah, so there's a whole series of companies that I'm advising in the space industry. One is Stoke Space. They're a Redmond or a Washington-based company. Another really fun company I'm working with is a company called Ursa Major Technologies. They're in Colorado.
Oh wow! Yeah.
There's a company in New Zealand called Dawn Aerospace that I'm helping out. There's a company in LA that's doing software-defined radios and applying AI to automate communications in space. It's called Rebel Space. And
amazing.
So the fun thing about space is it literally is the largest domain.
Yes, it is. I love that. That's great. Well, it sounds like you've got a very full, busy, very interesting life. Thank you so much again, Charlie, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Okay, see you.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye-bye.